cruiser and ventured closer to the door, his wet nose pressed to the glass, his tail eagerly whipping back and forth. I opened the door of my cruiser and stepped out into the night. The air was unusually cold tonight, a not-so-subtle reminder of the winter weather to come. It couldn't come soon enough for me. The summer had been a scorcher. Grass fires fueled by dry, dead vegetation had kept Seth and his fellow firefighters busy the last few weeks. I opened the back door to let Brigit out of the car. If I was going to get a little time with my boyfriend, she should get some with hers too, right? Her nails clicked as she hopped down to the pavement and trotted along beside me. Doug Harrison, a seasoned, dark-skinned paramedic, pushed the door open as I approached. I acknowledged his gracious gesture with a nod and smile. "All right, Mr. Mysterious," I said, as Brigit and I stepped inside. "What's the big secret?" As the door swung shut behind me, Seth turned around. Cradled in his arms was a newborn infant swaddled in a baby-sized quilt. The baby was sound asleep, its chubby face pink against the white trim of the colorful blanket. Atop its head was a knit cap in the same brilliant purplish blue as the accents adorning the quilt. I stopped in my tracks and looked from Seth to the other men and back again. As far as I knew, none of their wives or girlfriends had been pregnant. Besides, who'd bring their child to the station at this late hour? I took a step closer, noting tufts of shiny black hair peeking out from under the tiny cap. "Whose baby is this?" Seth shrugged. "I don't know. I was checking the hoses on the truck a few minutes ago, and a guy just walked up and handed the baby to me. Said he was making a safe drop." My mouth fell open. Though the Texas Safe Haven statute, sometimes referred to as the Baby Moses Law, had been in effect since 1999, it had rarely been utilized. The law allowed parents of a baby up to 60 days old to leave the infant at any designated safe place, which included hospitals, freestanding medical clinics, and fire or emergency medical stations. So long as the baby was handed over to an employee and was unharmed, the parent would not be charged with abandonment or neglect. The statute was enacted after a rash of dangerous abandonments, with the hope that the law would save young lives by giving desperate parents a legal and anonymous way out of difficult, hopeless situations. As Brigit raised her head to give the baby's blanket a curious and thorough sniff, I reached out to run a finger over the baby's soft cheek. "Is it a boy or a girl?" Doug chimed in. "Girl. I checked her for signs of trauma. Everything looked okay." Thank God. Domestic violence was one of the most difficult things police officers faced on the job, and the stakes and emotions increased exponentially when children were involved. The baby began to stir inside the blanket, her eyes fluttering. Uh-oh. Being the oldest of 5 children, I knew newborns had only 2 modes, fast asleep and feeding frenzy. And if you didn't feed them fast enough, they'd scream loud enough to wake Satan's minions in the deepest circle of hell. Seth's eyes flashed in alarm and he held the baby out to me. "Here, take her." I scoffed. "You run into burning buildings and defuse explosives for a living, but you're scared of a tiny baby?" "Yes." He thrust the baby at me again. "Babies are terrifying." I rolled my eyes but took the baby from him and settled her in my arms, gazing down at her. "Hi, cutie." Her body wriggled and her tiny mouth opened in a toothless yawn as she struggled to wake. Looking at her, I couldn't help but have questions. Why did her parents give her up? What circumstances had they faced that forced them to make this heartbreaking choice? Despite the Texas legislature's attempts to restrict abortion in the state, it was still legal under certain circumstances. The mother of this child would presumably have had the option of terminating her pregnancy if she'd had the means and inclination to do so. But she hadn't. What does that tell us? Where did you come from, baby girl? My gut squirmed with that same sense of frustration I felt when it was clear Brigit knew something I didn't and couldn't communicate it to me. As the other men wandered off to return to their tasks, Harrison said, "One of the guys ran to the store for diapers and formula. He should be back soon." Great. Instinctively, I hiked the baby into a more upright position in my arms and began to bounce and sway side to side. She yawned a second time, blinking her eyes against the harsh glare in the bay. When I looked up again, I caught Seth eyeing me, a soft smile on his face. He lifted his dimpled